Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just while we've been sitting in this committee room having this hearing today about left-wing extremism and violence, literally, as we were being gavelled in, we experienced some left-wing extremism of our own on the second floor of this building while we've been in here. The Center for Popular Democracy invaded our office building this afternoon to push their extreme agenda on everything from climate to the debt ceiling. Approximately a dozen were arrested while we were sitting in this hearing room. Thankfully, my staff brought over pictures to share with you all. This happened right here in the rotunda of the Cannon building while we were sitting here in this hearing, having this hearing on left-wing extremism. I mean, you kind of can't even make this up. But George Soros funded it. It's the Open Society that funds this group. Here they are being arrested by Capitol Police. We really appreciate their work. Here they are being loaded into the vans, thankfully. And here's some of their signs that they left here in the Cannon building. I don't know if we call that an insurrection, left-wing extremism, violence. I'm not sure what we call it. But I would like to remind, or I'd like to remind everyone that while we're talking about white supremacy, Ms. Spitalneck, you were talking about white supremacy.
It's Spitalneck.
Oh, I apologize, Spitalneck. Ms. Spitalneck, while you were talking about white supremacists and abortion, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of white supremacists in the abortion movement and abortionists because they have murdered over 20 million black babies in America since Roe versus Wade in 1973. That's on average 900 black babies are aborted. They're ripped apart inside their mother's wombs. So I would agree with you. That could be labeled white supremacy, or we could just label it murder. And it should never be happening. So if you want to talk about white supremacy and the abortion movement, you should really analyze that in your human rights groups that you run as you collect donations from people with your nonprofit. Because I think that is something extremely important to talk about, is the right for those black babies to have lives as American citizens, the right for them to be born, the right for them to be given a chance to live as free Americans instead of murder. You think this is funny, Ms. Spitalneck? Is this funny to you? Is babies being murdered in the womb funny to you? Because you're smirking and laughing at me right now.
What's not funny are the black people and Hispanic people and Jewish people and Muslim people who have been murdered in synagogue, in church, in supermarkets, in mosques by white supremacists.
Are you aware that all colored people are murdered? That is a fact, that every single color person has been murdered. That's not unusual. It's not just that people of color are murdered. White people are murdered too. Murder is not just for minorities. That may be a shock to you because you seem to dive deeply into all kinds of misinformation and seem to be uninformed yourself. But if you're going to talk about white supremacy and abortion, you need to study very hard about who the targets are. And it's not just black women, and it's not just black babies, it's Hispanics as well. And I think that's important for you to understand. And if you apparently care about human rights and you care about studying extremism, let's have a little talk about extremism, shall we? I think that's important because that's what this hearing is all about. I'd like to inform you, or maybe you don't know, maybe you do know, I doubt it. You mostly care about white supremacists and white-wing extremism. But there's quite a pattern of left-wing violent protests on college campuses today. Ms. Gaines here was a victim of it. Do you support what they did to Ms. Gaines? These trans terrorists chasing her into a room, do you support their movement?
I am absolutely sorry that Ms. Gaines felt threatened and unsafe while she was on a college campus, and that's not acceptable. But again, the statistics tell us that when it comes to politically motivated violence, in 2022, every single murder was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Every single murder in America was committed by a right-wing extremist?
Every single politically motivated murder was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Are you sure about that?
I am
confident. Are you aware that the Tennessee shooter just recently identified as a man and she was a biological woman? Was she a right-wing extremist as well?
Gentlelady's time has expired. I'll allow the witness to answer the question.
So that was a shooting that happened in 2023. There is no evidence as to what ideology motivated that shooting. And what we do know is that cisgender males are responsible for the vast majority of mass shootings in this country.
I'm sorry, I don't know what a cisgender male is. There's only two genders. It's male and female. That would be that. So no one knows what a cisgender male is. It's a made up.
Unfortunately, the anti-trans invasion
Georgia
language that you've been
back. I
using
recognize Mr. Strong for his 5 minutes of questioning.
That was how Marjorie Taylor Greene used her 5 minutes during the committee hearing on political extremism today. She lied a lot and then lost her cool when Spitalnik was kind of laughing at her because she's so ridiculous. For Marjorie Taylor Greene to talk about the peaceful sit-in that activists had this morning and try to compare that to right-wing shooters slaughtering people is just utterly ridiculous, but it's par for the course for Marjorie Taylor Greene because a lot of those shooters love Marjorie Taylor Greene. And if you listened very carefully at the end there, Spitalnik was saying that your language, that anti-trans language, is normalizing this sort of extremism, the extremism that we're here to talk about. And that, I think, really summed it up. And it was unfortunate that it was kind of hard to hear Spitalnik, but that was exactly what needed to be said there. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're a part of the problem. You're encouraging that extremism when you talk like that. You're aiding and abetting white nationalists slaughtering people. White nationalist extremism. You're part of the problem, Marjorie. Also, going back to that peaceful sit-in, Marjorie Taylor Greene has the audacity to thank Capitol Police when she was the one who helped to coordinate and orchestrate the Trump attack on Capitol Hill, the Trump protester, rioters, attempted coup, insurrectionist attack on Capitol Hill on January 6th. I mean, what else can you say about that? The audacity for Marjorie Taylor Greene to sit there with a straight face and thank Capitol Hill Police. I guarantee you that Capitol Hill Police don't want to hear a peep from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just disgusting when she talks about white supremacist abortions. These are black women who have to make an incredibly difficult decision. To equate that to white nationalism, again, just absurd. And when Spitalnik and her had that back and forth about every politically motivated mass shooting taking place at the hands of a white nationalist in 2022 was astonishing. It doesn't surprise me, but the fact that we have the data on that is mind-blowing. And especially because we have a lot of these shooters who will leave behind, manifestos and whatnot. Yeah, that was incredible, And then Marjorie, later in the hearing, also tried to talk about left-wing extremism and totally lied about a young climate activist who Marjorie Taylor Greene says murdered a police officer in this next clip, when in fact it was completely the other way around. He was murdered by the police. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is, of course, lying in this next clip.
You want to talk about human lives? Well, it seems to be that being a police officer is a target for Antifa because they actually murdered someone there. They actually murdered a police. Oh, you don't know. That's right, because you don't study left-wing extremism from your nonpartisan so-called nonprofit. But let me tell you about it. There was a 26-year-old activist, Manuel Tehran, shot and killed Georgia State Patrol trooper there. That was this year, you're right, not last year, it was this year. So left-wing extremism is definitely on the rise, and murder is a big part of it. I yield back, thank you.
There you have it, Marjorie Taylor Greene being just disgusting across the board. And of course, it's par for the course for her. Doesn't surprise me, but we need to highlight this extremism and point it out and say, this is who's helping. This is who is aiding and abetting these white nationalist terrorists by using ignorance and extremism and trying to divide us rather than bring us together. Marjorie Taylor Greene should have no place in Congress. Thanks for watching. My name is Brendan Plank with Reflect. Hope you liked the video. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and hit the follow button on Facebook so you get our videos in your feed. I'll see you in the next video.